Hi, everybody. So here I am back. Hang on here. I'm just changing some things. So I want to go back to this graphic, the unified theory of exercise. I focused on exercise versus recreation in a couple of previous entries. And I've done an entry where I've gone through sort of this entire thing a little bit at a time, not doing justice to any of them. Today I'd like to talk about the real objective of exercises versus the assumed objective of exercise. Before I do so, I want to give all credit to the copyright for this and the next graphic to Renaissance Exercise, Ken Hutchins, Josh Trentini, Al Coleman, and others. I'm not sure who all owns these rights, but this is not my original material. And I encourage everybody to seek out any of the work by Ken Hutchins, the Super Slow Manual, the Renaissance Volume 1, Renaissance Exercise Volume 2, for a much more in-depth explanation of the things that I'm going to explain. And as I explain these, they are not my original ideas, so any mistakes are purely mine. So I want to talk about the real objective. And one of the challenges I found in doing these is trying to do justice to these fairly complex concepts when trying to do it in a 5 or 6 minute video. So again, hopefully it just intrigues people a little bit, but they should go digging deeper. I just want to go to this next part here, which has to do with the real objective versus the assumed objective. So this is sort of really fundamental, this whole methodology, because, first of all, like when people exercise, why do they exercise? Well, the quick answer is, well, they want to get in better shape, they want to be healthier, or whatnot. But what I mean more specifically is, what is it about exercise that is presumably good for us? Well, what I'm going to suggest to us is that exercise per se, and activity in general, doesn't do anything for us. It's a form of stress on the body. The only thing it can do in the end is actually hurt you or injure you, because it is a stress on your body, your muscles, ligaments, tendons, your lungs, your heart, your entire body. What happens is when we subject our body to this stress, your body adapts as a result of being exposed to stress. So in a way, the body perceives proper exercise or any sort of stress as something that it needs to protect itself from. So just in the same way that your hands will form calluses to prevent you from getting blisters, your body will form a suntan in order to protect you from excessive sunshine. What your body is doing when it is adapting the exercise is seeking to protect you from this stress, so that in the future, if you're exposed to this stress again, you will be ready for it. Now, having said that, what is the trigger that actually creates a stimulus for your body to do the adaptation? So I'm going to start sort of backwards here and say, momentarily, the real primary objective, so I'm going to go back to the assumed objective, is to weaken the musculature, inroad it, which means that reducing its starting level of strength, to do it quickly, efficiently, and deeply as possible, safely, quickly, efficiently, deeply as possible, for the purpose of stimulating the muscular growth mechanism. The only thing I might sort of take a little issue is with this wording is, I would say to stimulate the adaptation mechanism, because muscular is only one part of it, with the least amount of weight and the least amount of time. So in other words, you're not trying to do something to the barbell or your body weight or the exercise machine. You're trying to use those tools in order to do something to your body, so that your body will you will weaken your musculature, you will fatigue it and whatnot, so in order to create the stimulus. But then you have to go off and get some rest and eat enough protein and provide enough time to allow your body to make that adaptation. But going back to the beginning is, when people go to the gym, they assume, or when they exercise in general, it's not necessarily in a gym, that their goal is to perform as many repetitions of a given exercise as possible with as much weight as possible. So this is, as Stephen Covey says, they're mistaking the map for the terrain. The map is an indication of what's going on, but it's not the actual terrain. So yes, you are lifting or working against resistance, and eventually the goal is to get stronger, and that will result in lifting more weight and more times. But that's not the objective. That's simply what happens as a result of doing this properly. But when people lose sight of that, when I read an article, for example, that's entitled "How to Put 30 Pounds on Your Bench Press" or "How to Put 30 Pounds on Your Squat," well, unless that article is targeted towards powerlifters who compete in those activities, then that tells me that whoever writes that article doesn't understand the primary objective of an exercise, because the goal is not to use more weight on your bench press, to use that example. The goal is to use a chest exercise such as the bench press in such a way that it will help you to become as strong as possible. Now, lifting as much weight as you can, as many times as you can, that's not the way you necessarily build strength, because that can involve compromising safety, compromising your form, using momentum, speed. That's the way in which you can demonstrate strength if it is your goal to demonstrate strength, as it would be if you were a competitive weightlifter or power lifter. But if your goal is simply to be as strong as possible in order to be able to do your day-to-day activities as well as possible and for as long into your old age as possible, then the answer of how much you can bench is irrelevant to you. You don't care. You just care that your muscles are functional and are as strong as they possibly can be. So it's a little bit like if a CEO of a major corporation thinks, well, my goal is to just make profits, to look at the bottom line so my shareholders will be happy with the quarterly earnings. Well, there are various ways that you can achieve that on paper, but they don't necessarily mean that your company is healthy and that long term it will be sustainable. Because I can cut costs, I can overwork my people, I can avoid maintaining my equipment, and all these things will, in the short run, allow me to maximize profits and make it look good for shareholders. But in the end, I'm basically tearing the company down. So what you want to do, obviously, a corporation's one of its major things is to show a profit and be profitable, running a business, any business, corporation or sole proprietorship, what have you. But if you think of that as the primary objective, then you'll engage in behaviors that are not conducive. Similarly, in an exercise program, this is what happens, and this is what leads to injuries. This is what leads to wasting time and the safety. So again, and you'll notice in this graph that the assumed objective is on the outside, because of course that's what is happening, but the real objective is inside. So as you're working out, you should always be looking for ways to do things as safely as possible, to fatigue the muscles as quickly as possible, meaning in the fewest number of sets, efficiently. If you do multiple sets and you're not going to failure, you're allowing your muscles to recover between every set. So you'll get to where you're going if you do enough sets and fatigue the muscles, but you're going to do it. It's kind of like going for a short car ride and taking about 10 detours on the way there. You'll get there, but you're going to have a lot more wear and tear on the car, and it's going to take you a lot longer. And because basically, in order to stimulate an adaptation response, you don't need to do a whole bunch of detours. You can just go straight from point A to point B. And the least amount of weight in the least amount of time. Well, what is that? That means you're being so strict, working so slow, avoiding any kind of momentum, working on proper change of the directions and not locking out at the end so that you're keeping the tension on the muscle the whole time, not allowing muscle fibers to recover at all in between, because muscle fibers recover incredibly quickly. Even just taking a second to take a breath between reps, and resting the weight on your chest, for example, for a second allows your body to recover for a second. It might allow you to do 2 or 3 reps, which, if you're looking at the assumed objective, you say, well, that's good, I got more reps in. But you did so by outroading. In other words, you did so by letting your muscle fibers recover so that you can tire them again when all you needed to do is tire them once in the first place. And now all you're doing is putting wear and tear on the body. So again, this is probably hard to do this justice in this short time. I encourage you to read more and look into this more deeply. Or of course, you can always come by, reach out to me at Sustainable Success Strength Training. And if you think this video is of benefit to you, please share it with others, and also feel free to subscribe. And I'm going to stop sharing and end this. Have a wonderful day, everyone.